Hey there everyone, Mary Pittman here from Fitness Alliance International. Welcome to the Saturday stretch. Now, we're standing in the gym, going through a few changes at the moment, and what the stretch is about today is emotions. So basically thinking about emotions and why we feel what we feel. So our emotions are there to tell us something. They're there to give us some sort of warning or some sort of message as to how to relate to the environment around us. Now, in particular, I guess I'm not focusing on emotion especially, but more the reaction of emotion. So, in particular, crying. There's a lot happening in media, on videos, on YouTube, TED Talks, all that sort of thing about vulnerability and authenticity. Now, from a young age, I guess I was termed as a sensitive child. I cried a bit, and it got to the stage in, I think it was year 5 or 6, where someone would see that look in my eyes, and that's go, oh, Mary's about to turn on the waterworks again. So, that didn't give me a great reputation, but I've learned, I guess, in my adult years, so continuing on through high school, so from that time of turning on the waterworks, I decided I wasn't allowed to cry. I wasn't going to let myself cry. So I'd do whatever it took to stop myself from crying, or so I thought. So I'd cut off, in inverted commas, cut off the oxygen supply by holding my breath. I'm not allowed to cry. I'm going to hold it in. I'm going to bottle it up. And those tears, or whatever you want to call it, that emotion, basically vented itself as frustration or anger. And I got a new reputation in high school of, I guess, being butch in Australian terms. So being a girl, I guess, who didn't smile. That's the only way I can put it. They saw me as rough and tough and didn't want to approach me. I didn't have many friends in high school, and that could have been one of the reasons. So basically, denying myself feeling emotion turned into this frustration and another sort of bullying, more name calling and more avoidance. And then as an adult, learning to cry again. And what happened was, when I started to release and allow myself to feel, in a sense, the tears came out at the least opportune times, to say the least. So in the middle of the mall, I'd just break down. Like, I'd be doing the groceries. For no reason, I'd be in tears. Or my heart would start going faster, and I'd start welling up just a little bit. But I'd actually be having a pretty decent day. So now, in, I guess, learning about my emotions and how I feel and how I feel within myself, I've learned that for me, tears aren't necessarily a sign of grief. They aren't a sign of sadness, that I'm upset about something in particular. For me, it's more kind of like a pressure cooker. So I'll put expectations on myself to get something done by a deadline, or get something done well. And we all know about putting pressure on ourselves, the to-do list, all that sort of thing. And the tears now come kind of like a pressure cooker. It's the psh, as you open it up. It's the release, that steam escaping. And so even though people I work with, in particular, I have had a couple of meltdowns at work. Sometimes it's come out as frustration or anger or upsetness. And again, I've built myself a little bit of a reputation of being a little bit rough, a little bit blunt, maybe a little more than a little bit. And I've been termed, I guess, a bit of a military drill sergeant, in a sense. So, so the tears now I know or understand better as coming as more of a release or a relief, because I've realized that I have done something right, or I have done something to my expectations or better than expectations. So I'm actually feeling good about myself. And I'm relieved that that has passed, and now I can move on to something else, something better, something different. So on to you now. How do you feel your emotions? How have your reactions or your relationship to your emotions changed since you were a child? I mean, when we were young, we used to cry for attention. We used to cry because we fell over. We used to cry because we bit our tongue. We used to cry because we were tired. So now, taking a look at your emotions, just stretch yourself for the Saturday stretch. How has your relationship to your emotions changed over the years? And how do your emotions express themselves now as a teenager in comparison to your childhood, or as a young adult in relation to your teenage years, or as an adult, as a 30, 40, 50-year-old in relation to your younger self? How have your emotions changed, and how have you been able to relate to them or understand them differently? And how can you use them to your benefit, knowing what they're, or understanding better what they're trying to tell you, and utilizing that as a marker post almost, a sign to change something, to do something different, or to keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's not always about changing, sometimes about maintaining. So that's me, Mary Pittman /D'Alvia, on the Saturday stretch, and I'll catch up with you again soon.